Joy, Nigel and Emma are preparing for their second Christmas without Edward.
We had a really weird thing happen here. Edward loved Christmas. The first Christmas after he died, I actually said, I'm not going to put any decorations up. I can't bear it, I'll just have a Christmas tree. And Nigel said, yeah, whatever. And that was what we planned to do. And suddenly, one night, after I'd made this decision, the heating, which is on a timer, came on at 2 o'clock at night, because it woke us up, because it made a noise as it came on. And when we came down in the morning, there's a photograph in the other room of Edward just standing. That had fallen off the wall, and it had fallen sideways and was still standing up. The dogs hadn't woken up. The photograph hadn't smashed or anything. It was still in its frame. And Nigel laughed and said, Edward's still around, you better get those bloody decorations up. We did put the decorations up. And would you like to put her on?
It's an angel, not a fairy.
Oh.
Light then, really, will it? Will she be alright? There's lights stuck up her. Will they burn it? Will they get too hot?
Very Christmas things. Let's wait and see.
Makes it a little bit more realistic.
Right, we've got to put it up there.
Joy and Emma have been to see a medium to try and contact Edward. This visit has brought them some comfort and reassurance.
She said, I've got a young person here, and their mind is it divided?
Divided or split or something.
Split mind.
And that's when you sort of knew that.
They've got a split mind, and then she said, and they've caused you a lot of problems. You've had a very hard time with him. She was looking at me. And she says, does that mean anything? Tears were running down my face, and I just nodded and said, yes, and we were sitting there holding hands, and we hadn't told her a thing. And the other weird thing she said to me, you didn't want to see his body after he'd passed over. I stood at the door, and I could just see Edward, and I just thought, I can't go in there. And I was standing at the door crying, and I said, no, I can't do it. And she said, he didn't want you to go in, and he was beside you when that happened, and he was hoping you wouldn't go in. And how she knew that, she said he didn't want you to go through the door.
She would have known that you hadn't gone in. She was going about this alcohol smell, because he did like a drink, especially towards the end, wasn't it? And
it was almost
really,
like
anything.
Self-medication, because he wasn't taking medication. This would knock him out for a while and he'd sleep.
And she said, oh, he still likes his drink now. She said, he still likes a bit of a drink. Nice to know there's alcohol up there anyway.
Or wherever.
Wherever.
No.
The start of a new year. Joy is looking for compensation from the Berkshire Healthcare NHS Trust. She is usually anxious before a meeting with her solicitor, as it forces her to relive Edward's death.
How are you today?
Not brilliant, actually. I think it's coming up to Edward's second anniversary, so I am quite depressed.
Things haven't improved in any way? Or?
They had for a while, but I'm not. No, I'm not at the moment. I'm quite down.
With the help of psychiatric experts, Spencer Baker has to prove that Joy has sustained psychological damage from the death of her son.
I wake up in the middle of the night, and I wake up with a jump, and it's as if I'm falling, and I think of him falling, and I think of him hitting the ground, and the fact that he was conscious and I wasn't there. It's something that doesn't go away.
Can you tell me anything else that the psychologist is doing that you think is helping?
She's trying to help me see that it isn't my fault, and that actually I did everything I could for him that day. And part of the logical side of me knows that that's what I did, but the illogical side, or whatever its side it is, can't face the fact that I don't feel I did.
She gets upset every time she speaks to me on the phone, gets a letter from me, and certainly when she has to have a meeting with me. And it appears that the counselling she's having is of very limited benefit, and the medication just enables her to get through daily life, but she doesn't appear to be moving forward much, if at all.
I don't know what I'm hoping for. No amount of money will ever give me back my son.
It is nearly 2 years since both Edward and Claire died. In the hope of moving on, Joy is meeting Guy Roderick.
When we meet them, a lot's going to depend on how they handle their grief versus how I handle mine. Men are much better at isolating these things, I think, than women. I mean, men are much more callous, in truth, and or compartmentalise things is the way I'd put it. But I mean, yeah, you just put it aside and get on. If they see that my reaction is, in effect, it's over and done, and yeah, there are sad moments in life, but you can't relive everything.
I think for a long time I thought I was doing quite well and getting on quite well, but recently I seem to have stopped and I seem to have got stuck.
Do we go down there? I think.
What do you feel like, Joy?
Apprehensive.
It's strange when you're sitting here and thinking about why you're here. Isn't it weird,
Yeah.
eh? God.
You can't actually say hello, I'm pleased to meet you,
No,
because it's under any
No.
other circumstances we wouldn't be meeting you.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is strange.
Odd. Hello.
Hi. Guy, Kathy,
Hello. Hello.
That's Nigel. I'm Joy.
how do you do?
How are you?
Get rid of this rubbish.
Take a seat.
We obviously got here comfortably first.
Well, I think when you've got to travel, you tend to leave quite early.
Yes, well, we left yesterday, how about that?
Oh, well, yeah. It was very difficult, I found, in the beginning to distinguish what was outlandish teenage rebellion and difficulties when the illness started.
Yes.
It's very, there's a very...
Because he was younger, that was much
Yeah,
harder, yes.
yeah.
Well, for us, it was just Claire's behaviour suddenly changed.
Yeah.
Well, not suddenly, changed over about a year.
Yeah, it's just a slow process.
And I mean, the first time we committed her was terrible, really, because it was Christmas Eve one year.
That's a strange Edward's Christmas through Christmas
and
time.
I mean,
Was
just
there any
hits left, you know.
CCTV footage of him going up to the parking lot?
They said there was nothing. The police looked
Oh,
and
that's
said
ludicrous.
they weren't
It's like
working.
a
They
known
said.
drug area.
Yeah.
And they know it's a drug dealing area, as Kathy said. On top of, they know it's a suicide jump spot, and yet there's no guardrails on the parapet or
No,
anything.
that's what
right?
we actually went up to the top.
So did we.
We
To
just
take,
took
We-
you have to, really, don't you? You just want
Yeah.
to see.
But that's it. I mean, we've got to live life. I mean, I've got 3 other children, and
That's
I've
right,
got
I've got 2
and
other,
it's a bit like you. I've got a new wife, and life's got to go on. And I can't bring Claire back to life. I mean, I
No.
can't undo what's happened. So there's a limit to how much you can devote to the past in the end. Because
You've got to move on. It's difficult. I find it difficult, but you do need to move on.
Yeah.
You need to move on for your own, for yourself. For Nigel, I need to do it.
yeah, well, no, but
And
for every
for
every
my
reason, more.
son
or
and
less.
daughter.
Yes, I'm going to say you've got other children, and I've got 3 other children. You know, and I mean, so you cannot go on being angry about the past.
When you have a child, that child lives inside you for 9 months, and you start to love that child before it's even born. It becomes part of you, and it means everything to you. And when you lose a child, it's like part of you's gone, because they were part of you. I've got a bush at the end of the garden which is becoming a shrine, because I keep hanging things on it and taking things up there and things, and it's almost like that's becoming Edward, because I need somewhere, and that's not, for me, normal behaviour, but it's something that I need to do. because it makes me feel good to be able to put things there and say, there you are, Edward, that's for you. What people make of that, they probably just think, oh, that nutty old woman next door putting things out by a bush.
I think that, I'm careful because it might blow out.
This old thing is actually called Edward. That's why I brought it. We went into a garden shop and there was this pig with a label round him called Edward, so we thought, well, has to be for Edward.
It's nice to see some horses in that field. It's much better when they're there.
Yeah. A little one. Molly. I know I'm not myself. I know I can't react as I used to be. I'm not the same person. And I'd like to think that that person I once was would come back. Oh dear. Wasn't very clever, was it, Tag? Sometimes when I get a lot of sort of pain inside, I get words that go around in my head, and the only way I can get rid of those words is to write them down, and they usually come out as a poem. I wrote this about a year ago now. I called it I Was Not There. Once physically part of my being, living in me, my blood flowed through you. I loved you even then, my heartbeat keeping you alive within. Sweet smelling, suckling at my breast, I held you close, warm and so tiny, so helpless. I loved you so much, nurturing, protecting, as you steadily grew. But I was not there for your final need. I failed you. The pain is hidden by a smiling mask. I want to sit and stare, but there's responsibility, one kind of love severed. I want to wail, howl and scream my pain. I see your face like a lost child that day. The last day of March, I left you in their care. Our love shared in a hug. They let you go, Edward. I miss you more each day, and it hurts more than comprehension. This agony of not having you close ever again. This love lays heavy inside me where you once were. I got through it.
There is online and phone line support for the issues raised by this series. If you'd like help or advice, just go to channel4.com/health or call 0870 400 2244. The lines are always open.